It's 1991, and the now acclaimed but at the time freshman director David Fincher was finally graduating from the world of music videos to direct his first feature film, the much anticipated Alien 3. Not a small task by any stretch for 20th Century Fox to hire the first-time director to follow up Alien and Aliens, Ridley Scott and James Cameron's undisputed classics of cinema. I believe Fox hired David Fincher because he was a first-time director. He was a man that could be easily led and manipulated when making the film, so essentially the studio was in control, or they thought they were. They couldn't be more wrong with David Fincher, because when he walked onto a set, he acted like he belonged there. He was hired to do a job in making Alien 3, and that's what he was going to do. He wasn't going to be beholden to the studio or budgetary constraints. He was a man with a vision not to be compromised, and he would stick to those guns until the very end. Whilst competent and capable on set, not everybody liked David Fincher's style. Filming took place in the UK predominantly at Pinewood Studios. The English crews had a more laid-back style, insisting on multiple tea breaks. This infuriated David Fincher, who just wanted to get the show done, no doubt under immense pressure from the studio and time constraints. Sigourney Weaver, however, the film's star and producer, insisted on him being the director and championed him the whole way through. She would return for this film after being paid a great deal of money for what she believed to be her final performance as Ripley. Alien 3's production was notoriously chaotic, and David Fincher had already walked into a storm. The script had gone through multiple rewrites, with earlier versions including a surreal concept by Vincent Ward set on an entirely wooden planet inhabited by monks. Fincher, making his feature debut, had already inherited a fractured vision, clashing with producers and facing constant interference throughout filming. The experience was so grueling for Fincher that he would later disown the film and nearly quit Hollywood altogether, almost depriving us of classics like Seven and Fight Club. But my hot take for this film isn't several things I like about it, but the film in general. I believe that Alien 3, despite all of its hate, is actually a cult classic that, with time, I think has got better and developed a bit of a cult following. I think people now appreciate the fact that Alien 3 swung, even though it ultimately missed. Look, let's address the elephant in the room. I'll never forgive Alien 3 for killing off Newton Hicks, and nor should you. After everything Ripley went through in Aliens, it felt like a gut punch. It was cruel, unnecessary, and emotionally hollow. That decision alone has soured the film for many fans, and I understand that. But here's the thing, Alien 3 is also the most misunderstood entry in the entire franchise. It dared to be different. Instead of doubling down on more guns, more Marines, and more xenomorphs, it stripped everything back. It's bleak and deeply atmospheric. A story about grief, guilt, and sacrifice. The prison planet setting is grim and industrial. The score is haunting. And Fincher's direction, even under studio interference, gives the film a raw, oppressive beauty. It's not the sequel people wanted, but it's the one that refused to play it safe. The reality is, Alien 3 was never going to be Alien or Aliens, and that's exactly why it had to forge its own path. The first was a claustrophobic horror masterpiece, the second, a bombastic action epic. Trying to replicate either of those would have felt like a hollow echo. Instead, Alien 3 was forced to strip everything back. No weapons, no hope, just Ripley alone on a prison planet, haunted once again. It leaned into despair, mortality and sacrifice, themes that made it divisive, but also bold. The assembly cut gives us a glimpse of what Alien 3 could have been. More coherent, more atmospheric, more Fincher, but ultimately, it's still not his cut. Fincher would walk away from the project, disowning it entirely, and no matter how much we might want it, we'll never see his true vision. What we're left with is a flawed, fascinating film that dared to be different, and in doing so, become the most haunting chapter in the franchise, and in my opinion, a cult classic.